Hello everybody and welcome back. Got something a little bit different for you this week. This week we're going to be trying to fix my 2020 C8 Corvette. Now regrettably I let this thing sit out in the rain, and well, they're not quite as waterproof as they would let you believe. So seems like we got some water in this thing. It got back here down into my latch mechanism for the rear deck here, and well, it no longer works. So if we hit the old button here, just nothing. The lights will flash and everything else, but absolutely nothing from the latch there. If we go and hit the release inside the car here, nothing as well. So thankfully this car here is a 2020, which means behind my license plate right there, I've actually got a key cylinder to pop that deck lid. If you have a 2023 or newer, you're kind of out of luck. It is a whole song and dance trying to get that thing open if you run into this problem, but not the case for us. But before we go ahead and dive in there, let's go ahead and sneak inside and take a peek at the new latch mechanism that I picked up, and kind of ballpark a plan for how we're going to approach this thing. So my latch has been broken for quite some time, and I've been keeping an eye out for an entire latch mechanism just like this for quite some time. Ended up finding this guy on eBay. It was listed for around $175, but it had make an offer. Threw them a really lowball offer, and well, they bit. So here we go. This is the entire latch assembly here. You can tell it's for the early model because it's got the remote lock on it. You guys with the, I think it's the 23s and up, don't end up having that remote lock. So if your latch goes out, you're kind of in trouble. You either got to pull out the rear wheel and a bunch of panels back there and try to get access through that way to pull on this little lever here. Or you have to put a little air bladder in one side of the deck, try to lift it up that way so you can get access to a little pull. But yeah, not quite sure why they decided saving the 20 bucks or however much this thing cost was worth their effort. But if we look through here, you can kind of see where there might be some potential areas for water intrusion. Right here we got a little bit of a limit switch. Looks like when the deck kind of comes down and hits this portion, triggers that one there, maybe for the soft close. Something along those lines. It's got this little tiny connector here. That connector looks like a weather pack, so that's probably good as it is. Over here we've got the actual latch module. That there again uses weather pack connections. Probably not getting any water in those. That's probably fine. It's the one right down in between there, my finger's kind of pointing right there. That's the one where everybody says they get some water in there. And gonna make sure that is all clean on this one. Everything looks good in there. I can see all the pins, but that's this connector right here. And this is the one that people say water gets in on. And the water gets in there, just gets down into those pins. It looks like they try to use dielectric grease to try to keep some of it out of there, but I guess if you get enough of it in there, it finally will get to those pins. And then usually it just erodes those pins away, or erodes these connectors here and stops everything from working. So that's why I wanted to get the entire assembly, because I don't know which part is bad on mine. I don't know if it's that little limit switch, I don't know if it's the module there, I don't know if it's the motor assembly, no clue. But having it all here, hopefully be able to figure it out. Now the way that this gets mounted in there is, as you can see, it's got these 4 little studs, and this gets mounted up against that rear plate in the trunk, and these studs stick through, and you basically have to take the bumper off to try to get to these things, or get really creative reaching your arm up underneath to try to get access to these. I'm hoping to avoid that. So there's this kind of metal cage here that holds this entire assembly in. And you can see that there's these big torque screws right there on either side. I think that's what's holding up this motor assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and try to pull those out of there, see if I can figure out a way of getting this assembly out and then getting these cables detached. I think that's going to be the hardest part. And if I can do it that way, then I don't have to worry about doing anything with this cage portion. I can just leave all of that in the car. And the way that these appear to work is it looks like you just kind of loosen everything and get them out of the retainers back here, and it should just kind of pivot. It looks like they just kind of swing down in there and have a little arm catch. So when they're flat like this, they won't come out on their own. But if you're able to bend them up high enough, they should pop right out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get all of this taken apart and hopefully figure out how that works. Then we'll get to the car and try to do it on there, where I'm going to have much less room, and see if we can't get this thing working. So I managed to get it apart. It wasn't all that bad, but as expected, typical engineering things that just are inexplicably dumb here. So This is the little arm where those two cables went through, and you can see that there's two different shapes here. So on the one with the little pull to it, you got like this little keyway and notch. So if that gets lined up just right with the hole there, it just pops right out. Could they do that again on the other one to make it easy? Of course not. Instead, for that one, they used the little 90-degree bend one that's just in there by how it's bent in shape. So why they couldn't do it the same for both, make it really nice and easy, not entirely sure. So for this one here, you pretty much have to take the little clip out and then just kind of bend it up, and then it kind of pops right out. For the other one there, really nice and simple, you just line it up and it slides right out. But in either event, we've got the assembly out now. As you can see, looks pretty good. And then right here is that spot where I was telling you where the water gets in there. And this one looks really clean, don't see any kind of corrosion down in there, just a lot of dielectric grease, which I'll probably add a little bit more to as well. But looks pretty good other than that. Now let's go ahead and struggle with this on the car. So with the license plate out of the way there, you can see where the key cylinder would be located. I've got my key in there currently. Let's go ahead and give her a little turn. Don't give you much room to get in there, but just enough. All right. Oh boy. So yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Look at all the moisture in this thing. It rained out here maybe about 3 days ago, and there's just water everywhere in here. There's water down below. You can see that there's actually standing water over there. I mean, it's just ridiculous how much moisture makes it into here. This thing just does not seal very good at all. So yeah, don't recommend leaving your C8 out in the rain. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a towel and try to dry this stuff up before we actually get into this thing. But yeah, you can tell all that water would just get right down in here, cause a whole lot of headache. So I dried it out in here the best that I could. Next up, I just need to go ahead and get all this interior panel removed so I can get access to there. There's a couple of just those little push button things, which you can just use your interior removal kit for that. There's a couple of these standoffs like this right here, these little T's. For those, they just twist right out of there. Shouldn't be too bad, but just need to get access to the actual latch mechanism there and hopefully get it apart as easy as the other one did. So you can see I've got the interior panel now removed here. It's really not too bad. Just be these two plugs here right in the front, right there and right there. And there'll be 4 of the standoffs that just unscrew and unthread. Really simple. After you get all those taken off, you just kind of grab this big plastic pad here in the middle, kind of lift up on it as you push forward. It'll feel like it's clipped into this, but it's really not. Then the whole thing just kind of pops free. But you can see there's a ton of moisture down in there. Definitely not what you want to see. And I think what's happening is because I park at the incline, you can see I'm just angled down in the back here just a touch. I think what's happening is all that water is coming through, not making it all down the big drains there, and it's getting into this little channel right here. And there's just these 2 little drains, it looks like, back there, and they're just getting full of crud. And that must be what's allowing all that water in there. So yeah, definitely clean up on all of that. But let's go ahead and see if we can get this apart. So before we get too far into this, let's just go ahead and make sure that this one's actually working and that it's actually doing something. So I've got the new module here, obviously, as you can see. I've got the new harness that came with it installed, connected up to my old module, and the old limit switch and all that other stuff is still in place. But let's go ahead and just see if this thing will make some noise when we hit the switch. Just see if it shows any kind of sign of life before we go through all the trouble of putting it in there. So hopefully you can hear that over all the traffic in the background, but it's definitely making some noise. So that's definitely a promising sign. The one that's in there right now does absolutely nothing. So all right, let's go ahead and get that thing out of here and try to get the new one in there. I think the biggest hiccup to all of this is just going to be those cables that come through right here. You can kind of see them down in there. Those are going to be a little bit of a chore trying to get out because there's just not much access. But if we can manage to get those taken care of, it shouldn't be too bad. It should be a whole lot easier than trying to get the bumper off and everything else. Just get this whole assembly out. So I got the old unit out. It was definitely a bit of a fight, but it just barely fits out of there. And there's water kind of all over the body of this thing, but the connector down here looks like it's okay. I don't really see any corroded pins or anything burnt up in there, so not exactly sure where the failure in this particular one was. I just know that the other one is working and this one's not, so let's go ahead and put the other one back in there. So it really wasn't all that bad to get it back together. The wires there did fight me the most out of all of this. So the way that I did it was I left the lock cylinder wire on there all the way until I kind of shoved it out through the bottom. Then I just took it off and I was able to get access to it from the front here. Made it a lot easier. And then I did take this one out from its little clip here just to be able to rotate it a little bit easier to get it in there, but not bad at all. So let's go ahead and just put this back in place right now and test everything out. So if everything's now working correctly, my soft close should work. Let's go ahead and test on that. Perfect. That has not worked in months. Now let's go ahead and try the magic button. Boom, there we go. Finally, we've got a working trunk again on this thing. It's been down for probably a good 9 months now that I've just kind of put this off and been looking for that latch mechanism. So yeah, it just seems like something in my motor assembly must be bad, but that thing was just covered in water. So next up, I'm just going to go through here, clean up on all this channel, get the vacuum out, suck a bunch of this garbage out of here, try to make sure that those flow freely, and probably never park it like this again. I'll always make sure to back it in here so the water will then come forward and go down the big drains here at the front, which I probably need to clean out as well. But pretty happy with the result. So just a couple of last tests here. Does it work from the fob? Yes, it does. And what about from the door switch? I'm assuming this is going to be a yes as well, but just to make sure, that is the sound of success. Everything seems to be working just perfect. So alright, no good fix is complete without a test drive. And you might be thinking to yourself, wasn't I working just on the trunk latch? What am I doing with the test drive? And well, my answer to you is, nobody asked you. So we're going to go for a quick drive out here. Not many colors. Out here in Michigan, it kind of went directly from summer straight into fall in a matter of a day. Went from kind of the mid-high 80s to low 60s, and our leaves out here kind of went from green to just dead. There is no beautiful oranges or reds in the middle, so not much to see, but we're gonna go anyway. Hey look, I had another C8. It used to be when I first got this thing, I didn't really see almost any of them. With all the COVID delays and everything else, I was one of the few people around who had it. But now they're kind of everywhere. That's okay. I was meaning to trade this in at some point for the Z06, but then the markups and everything else, I just couldn't bring myself to paying $30,000 more for the Z06. And then I was like, okay, do I want to wait for the CR1? And well, then I just get distracted with other goodies like the Chevelle and my Fairlane and stuff like that. So, not good at holding on to money apparently, but got just over 32,000 on this thing, and I pretty much drive it hard. I've got probably 3,000 miles worth of just track time on this thing. I take it out to the local track in Groton quite a few times. Have a lot of fun with it out there. Maybe I'll drop a couple highlights in right here of that. reliable for me. I've never had an issue. I did put the 2 quarts extra of transit fluid in this the second I got it, so I never did run it at the factory setting. That's because I took it out to the track almost immediately anyway, and I've just kept it that way. But other than that, the thing is just so comfortable. I've driven this thing out to Maine in straight shot and get out of it. My back feels fine. Everything feels great. I drive for an hour or 2 in my Subaru and I get out of there and my back is just killing me. So they did a good job at making this thing comfortable and pretty fun, but you know, it's a little bit too tame maybe. Like when you take it out to the track, I usually just put it in race mode, leave it in automatic shifting mode, because it just knows what it wants to do better than I do. And it's so good, but it's also kind of boring at the same time. It's just so controlled and so relaxed that you just don't feel like you're going as fast as you are. Nothing like what it used to be in my RX-7s, where it felt like you had your life in your own hands in every lap, but still, pretty fun car nonetheless. Pretty good interior quality on this thing. Not a bad job overall. Sitting there waiting for everybody. Yeah, not much to see out here in terms of the color changes. We'll probably be heading up north at some point, so up to the UP where I'm originally from. They usually tend to get a little bit better color than we do down here. But yeah, this year has just been disappointing. Went from green to dead, and it's just not very aesthetic when that happens. Well, that puts a crimp on my fun. Yeah, usually I come out this way every fall, and a lot of the colors out here on this little stretch are pretty nice, but nothing this year. Just sad looking. Everything has just been burnt to a crisp. It's been a pretty dry summer for us. I think a lot of this region has kind of been through a drought. So my fun scenic drive in the Corvette has turned into a leisurely Sunday cruise. I kind of just putting along here, and not a whole lot to see. So I'm just going to probably turn around, head back home, and that might end up doing it here for this week. I'm just really strapped for time, so I'm really happy I got the trunk taken care of at the least, though. So that's going to do it here this week. Pretty simple fix, but I'm not complaining. That wasn't too bad at all. Just one of those things that's been nagging at me for a while. Glad to have it finally taken care of. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next week.